makeup friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I invite you to subscribe. Now, today we're going to be talking about the newest foundation from Urban Decay. This is quite the name on it. So it is the Stay Naked HYDROMANIAC Tinted Glow Hydrator. They market it as a foundation, so while I'm tempted to say it's a tinted moisturizer, it is actually classified as a foundation. I'm going to hop over to the Sephora website and I'm going to read to you what the claims of this product are. It says that it's a long-wearing foundation infused with kombucha, filtrate, and marula oil for 30% more hydrated skin, has medium coverage, and a glowing finish. I always find it funny when they're like, it's 30% more. Like, it's a very specific number, although not as specific as most mascaras. Have you noticed that? Especially at like the drugstore, it'll be like 117% more volume. How did you test this? Anyways, I digress. The highlighted ingredients in here are the kombucha filtrate, which is an antioxidant-rich ingredient that visibly brightens and purifies the skin for a more luminous look, as well as marula oil, which hydrates, protects, and seals in moisture. Under the category of what else you need to know, it says that this is infused with nourishing ingredients, and this lightweight formula leaves the skin feeling super hydrated while minimizing imperfections like uneven tone and texture with a blurring effect. After applying, you'll notice a healthy glow and medium coverage that looks like real skin and wears for up to 24 hours. It's available in 12 shades and it retails for $39 Canadian. I got mine through Shoppers Drug Mart, but it is also available on the Sephora website or obviously on the Urban Decay website as well. All right, so the shade that I picked up is number 30. It's described as light neutral. There really wasn't much option in terms of light. So you have two fair options. 30 is light, and then 40 is light medium. So I picked the only one that was strictly light because I am at the fairest I'm going to be all year. But it does appear that there is a fairly good range. Because it is medium coverage, I would have expected a few more shade options than just the 12 that they've provided. Tinted moisturizers, I feel, are a little bit more flexible, but because they're really pushing that this has a medium coverage, I'm surprised that there aren't more shade options available. From what I can see, they do have a good spectrum of shades available, so it's not just, 10 shades of white and then 2 shades of like edging towards tan. There is a good spectrum, but I would have thought that they might have fleshed it out a little bit more considering the level of coverage that they're claiming that it has. Keeping in mind, this is just a first impression, so I don't really know if this medium coverage claim lives up to its name just yet, but let's hop straight into that and apply this. Hi, so I'm going to bring you in closer so that you can really see what difference it makes on my skin. I do have a primer on. I'm using up a sample of the Guerlain L'Or primer. I don't find that it does an awful lot. Like, it claims to be a radiance concentrate, but I don't find that it really makes my skin look particularly glowy. So I don't think that this is going to have any real effect on what the finish of this product is. Typically I use a different primer, but I honestly wasn't expecting to film with this today. It just got delivered and I thought, well, what the hey, I'm home, I may as well play with it. So here we are. Straight out of the gate, I do like the packaging on this. I like that it's just a really functional squeeze tube. Don't have to worry about, like those little spatulas that come in some foundations. Don't have to worry about pumps or anything of that sort. It's just, like I said, really practical. So I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand. Give it the old sniff test. Not really detecting anything at all. Just like a very, very light hint of a scent, but nothing noteworthy. It smells a tiny bit citrusy, but very, very faint. All right, so I'm going to just do that back up. The texture is like most foundations. It is obviously a liquid foundation, but it's not super runny, nor is it really thick. So I'm liking that straight out of the gate. I'm going to use an F80 flat kabuki from Sigma, and I'm going to remember to just put it on half of my face just so that we can see what the difference is. At least the shade match is there for me. I'm happy about that. I tend to run a little bit more on the warm side of things and a little bit more yellow. So sometimes neutral can look a little off on me, but this one's working out pretty well from what I can see in this lighting. All right, so it is blending really nicely, even on my nose. Not that I have a particularly like oily nose. I don't have oily skin at all, but sometimes foundations just don't like to adhere to my nose for whatever reason, and they can become a little patchy in that area. But this one I'm not having any problems with. If you're new to my channel, I guess I should just back it up and just explain to you what my skin situation is. I'm 40 years old. I have fine lines and wrinkles forming. I have fairly normal skin, although at this time of year it is leaning towards the drier side of things. No real issues with flakiness or dry patches, just an overall like tightening of the skin after I wash it. The furnace is on, it's Canada, it's winter, it's cold, it's dry. But it's not like I don't feel like I need any special creams or any like specific to dry skin moisturizers, so it fairly well behaves itself. It's not particularly sensitive. I don't really have issues with discoloration, no real pore issues or anything of that sort. So I don't need an awful lot of correction. So for that sake, I do enjoy a medium coverage. I will use full coverage every now and then, but I don't feel like I need it. You know what I mean? Like it can be a little bit much. So in looking at this, I'm gonna back it up and look at the viewfinder. I can definitely see that glowy finish that they're talking about. I always hesitate to use the magnified side of my mirror just because it shows altogether way too much, but for these purposes, it can be helpful. So like I said, I don't have a ton of issues that I'm trying to cover up. I do have some freckles on my nose. I can see them poking through the foundation. I've got one over here as well, and one over here. I can still see them, but it's not like clinging to any texture spots of any sort. It's not patchy at all. It's only been on for a couple of minutes, so I don't expect it to be like bunching around or moving into any areas where it shouldn't be, at least not yet. But if I touch it, I can see a little bit of where my fingerprints are, so just gonna blend that out. We'll see how it looks after it's had a chance to sit on my skin for a little bit. But overall, I would say definitely, probably the max you're gonna get out of this is medium coverage. I think just on initial application, I would say light to light medium kind of deal. I didn't go in with a ton of product and I could probably build it up a bit beyond where it is right now, but it does produce a very natural look on the skin. Even up close in this magnified mirror, I don't see it sitting on top of the skin. It does blend in really nicely. I'm not seeing any obvious line between where it ends and where my skin begins. So I am liking that. And even where I can see the divide between where I applied it and where I didn't, it still blends in really nicely, so it's not like it's a thick or heavy kind of foundation. So on very initial application, I'm liking the way it looks on my skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up on this side. We'll let it sit for a minute or two and see just what it's going to do, and then I'll come back and show you some up close without the bright lights on. All right, so this is about as close as I can get. Are you uncomfortable? Because I certainly am. I'm gonna turn the lights down or up. There we go, down. That's about as low as I can get them. And I will turn my side lights off. There. So that will give you a slightly better idea of how this actually looks, because when all the lights are on, you can't tell what foundation looks like, honest to God. But you can see, like, it's not bunching up anywhere where I don't want it to be. It's blended out nicely. You can see that it does have a glowy finish, but it's not like super shiny looking. I think it just looks really realistic on the skin. Like I really like the finish of it. You can see like I have little beauty spots, aggressive freckles, if you will. I refuse to call them age spots. I'm just not there yet. And then the freckles on my nose, you can see that those are peeking through as well. But otherwise, like my skin tone looks nice and even with this on. There's no real issues with it. Even where I am the driest, which is like this area of my nose, it's not really clinging in an unflattering sort of way. So overall, I like the way it's applied. All right, so very first impressions, I do like the way it looks on the skin. I like how it blends out. I like that it's not overly fragranced. And another note that I forgot to mention at the beginning, this product is cruelty-free and vegan, just so that you're aware of that as well. I am not super sold on the feeling of it just yet. I'm aware of the foundation on my skin. We'll see once I set it down with a little bit of powder how it goes from there, but I definitely want to set it because it does feel a little tacky and I am aware of it on my skin. So they claim it's lightweight. It certainly doesn't feel heavy, but at least right now, 10 minutes into wearing this, I'm aware of it on my skin. So we'll see if the powder helps. This does claim to be a 24-hour wear foundation. I am not dedicated enough to wear test it for 24 hours, but I will do at least 8 hours, possibly closer to 10, just so that you can really get a good idea of how this might hold up during a typical work day. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up this portion and then I will check back in later on today. I'll see you in a second. Hello again. It is now 10 hours after I applied my foundation and I have to say I am very impressed. Not only with how it's worn throughout the day, but also just how comfortable it actually is. When I first applied it, I was saying that I could feel it on my skin. I wasn't too sure about that. It felt kind of tacky and that I was going to set it with some powder to see how that played out for me. That is exactly what I did. I used a very light dusting of powder, and after about 10-15 minutes or so, I could no longer feel it. Either the tackiness touching it with my hands or just the sensation of it being on my skin. It has worn beautifully throughout the day. Like I said, it's now 10 hours later and I don't have that urge to wash my face. I really just don't feel like I'm wearing any foundation at all, so it is very comfortable. Now I am going to do the extreme close-up again and turn the lights down as far as I can so that you can get a sense of what it really looks like at this point, but I've done the magnifying mirror thing and it's doing really well. So as usual, the foundation has worn away from this area and along the tip of my nose. I rub my nose throughout the day, I blow my nose, I wipe my mouth when I eat, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really not surprised that it's no longer there. But typically speaking, most foundations are going to break up across my forehead throughout the day. And that has not really happened at all here. There's a very little bit of it, right in this area here, but nothing, I would say, above this line on my face. Everything else is still looking really good. Also, shout out to Benefit Cookie Highlighter. I didn't touch that up at all. That's still the initial application from 10 hours ago. Very impressed with that as well. So I'm not seeing any splotchiness over here. Nothing across the chin is out of place. It hasn't caked up. I do have concealer on and the concealer's not looking all that hot at this point, I will say that, but even in my lines that I have going on over here, it isn't bunched up anywhere it shouldn't be. In the wisdom creases on my forehead, there's really no issue with this foundation at all. It doesn't look dried out. It doesn't look gross. That's good. That should be the minimum threshold that foundations should reach, is just not looking gross. We've achieved that with this one. I'm really happy with it. So let's bump it in and dim the lights as much as possible so that you can get as good of a sense as possible as I can give you. All right, so again, uncomfortably close, but here we are. Lights are down as low as they'll go, and I've turned the side lights off. Actually, I never even had them on to begin with because I forgot, but that's okay. So you can kind of see in here, that's where there's a bit of wear showing. And then like I was saying, along the nose and like the tip of my nose, it's kind of rubbed away over the course of the day. But like these lines over here, nothing's like caked up in there. Same with like my forehead creases. I think it's doing really, really well. I'm really impressed. It's certainly doing better than the concealer, good Lord. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but I'm really impressed with this foundation. I don't know why I didn't really have very high expectations for it. I think it's because I have not really had great success with Urban Decay base products in the past, but this one, I am definitely going to be using this one over and over again, especially throughout the winter because my skin does feel hydrated wearing it. Now, keep in mind, I don't have super dry skin, so take that with a grain of salt. I can't speak to people who have oily skin as to whether or not they're going to like this. I'm going to go ahead and guess probably not, simply because of that tackiness feel that I had at the beginning. I just think if you have oily skin, that's probably going to exacerbate it, and it's probably going to take that much longer for it to dry down. If you have oilier skin, either look for a review from somebody who also has oily skin, or try to get a sample if at all possible, because I'm not convinced that you're going to love this one. Okay, so overall, it's a first impression. Obviously, this is just my first time wearing it, but it is a very positive first impression. I am so thrilled with this. I think my skin looks great in this foundation. It feels good, it's worn well, it hasn't oxidized. Like, I'm just really impressed with this. Now, something that I do plan to incorporate on my channel going forward is sort of hand in hand with my beauty budget videos that I'm now doing. So my December haul I talked about at the beginning of January. January's haul I'm going to talk about at the beginning of February, so on and so forth. But what I also plan on doing is then reviewing all the items that I've purchased in the previous month at the end of the next month. Does that make sense? So for example, this item here, obviously I've picked it up in the month of January. At the end of February, I plan to revisit it and just give you guys an update as to whether or not it has continued to work for me or if my feelings have changed on it at all. So look for that in a few weeks' time, but that will give me an opportunity to really put these items to the test. And then you guys will get more information than just a first impressions. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to do that because I think that's really helpful overall. It also helps me come the end of the year when I'm thinking back to all the items that I've tried. It really helps me to remember what worked and what didn't. So overall, I think it's going to be a win-win, hopefully. All right. But with all of that said, for now, first impressions, I am very impressed with I still can't remember the name of it, the Urban Decay Stay Naked HYDROMANIAC Tinted Glow Hydrator. It's quite the name. We might have to come up with something shorter for that. HYDROMANIAC? Let's do that. Okay. So, first impressions, I am very impressed with the HYDROMANIAC. There it is. All right, with that said, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.